And this is Supervisor Richard Forster with your biweekly supervisors report from the meeting of Tuesday, September 8th. And starting off the meeting, we had Sheriff Martin Ryan in talking about the SARX event. This is the event for their volunteer search and rescue expo that they're having up at Silver Lake or Plazas Resort, excuse me. September 11th through the 13th. Sheriff Ryan wanted to give an invite to the board and tell them a little bit about the event. They're going to have over 500 people there from all over central northern California, so it should be a great event. Tara Forget was in talking about the Our Town grant that Amarillo County Arts Council is applying for, $60,000, and this will work with the Board of Supervisors, Council of Tourism, and Chamber of Commerce. So we'll be hearing more about that in the future. On our agenda today, we had the Daughters of the American Revolution in, and what they were asking the board was to pass a resolution in support of Constitution Week, which the board took that action. And also on Saturday, September 19th at 10 a.m. at the American Legion Pavilion, they're having a ceremony where they will ring the bell 13 times in honor of the 13 original colonies. So be there, or there's lots of other things going on, but should be a good event there and not take too much time out of your day. We had a quick item. Also, the board approved from our General Services Department sale of a property in Comanche that was county owned, only 0.52 acres, I believe, is the size of the property, so not a lot of value to it, especially in the area that it's in, and only being that size of a property. But it's at the corner of Village Drive and Newman Court. It is 0.52 acres. The property had two bidders at $5,000. The ultimate oral bidding ended up at $8,500, so a good deal for our taxpayers. By the way, that was a contract, an RFP that was accepted with Caldwell Banker, so they're doing a good job for us. The board approved an update to the Park and Recreation Master Plan request for proposal that's going out. That RFP will now go back to the ACRA board on Wednesday the 9th. It was reviewed by Supervisors Plaza and Oneto, along with Carolyn Fergulia, the ACRA Executive Director. There were basically minor modifications made. I think those will be approved. What I've asked Ms. Fergulia to do is take those modifications back to the ACRA board and show them clearly, so they'll have an idea. The changes were made on the evaluation of proposals, the scope of work and services, and the needs assessment. There were basically minor modifications made there. By the way, this RFP is going out for a needs assessment, master plan, and nexus study to be done so that you can have a reliable plan out there to charge your mitigation fees. The board took quick action of ordaining the chairman's action in an emergency. What happened is the George Reed Quarry asked to operate outside of their normal operating conditions in their use permit, or normal operating timelines in their use permit. This was because Caltrans requested them to do so that they could get an emergency fix on the Buckhorn area of Highway 88 where the tanker truck overturned. That action was approved by our board, and that's just the process. Is the chairman can declare an emergency and allow that to happen, so it is timely, and then it comes back to the board. Supervisor Plaz made a report on the Coast to Coast RX prescription card program. Basically now, probably because of the Affordable Care Act, the amount of revenue into that program has gone down. It is $1.25 per prescription taken out that goes into a fund. Last year, we had about $18,000, almost $19,000, that was split between Common Ground Senior Services and the Amador Lifeline program operated through ATCA. There is about half that revenue this year, so the board took action of authorizing all of that money in the future to go to the Amador Lifeline program until we see a change in the revenue that comes into it. We had a quick report on the Community Development Block Grant, and the board did approve the final report on our last Community Development Block Grant, looking at the grantee performance report that was prepared. The three activities were housing stabilization services for 518, homeless services for 403, and Meals on Wheels for 98. So that report was approved, and then the board went out and made notice that there is a new grant program out there. This is basically just for private business. The problem with this new program for private business is it's more suited to urbanized areas where one full-time job is required to be put together for every $35,000 in funding. There's not much chance of that happening in Amador County, so more than likely we will not have any recipients for that program. Also, we did look at our possibility of having a grant in the future. It doesn't look like that's going to happen this year because the water agency, because of the environmental and CEQA process and construction, needs to be at least 50% complete before you can apply for new funding. That did not happen, so we are not eligible to apply for a CDBG grant in those community development block grants this year. Next up, we had the 2015-16 annual budget was approved by the board. I've covered this before, so I'm not going to spend a lot of time, but basically not a lot of changes in the budget. We had major expenditures approved for the other post-employment benefits, unfunded liability contribution of $300,000, $400,000 to go to the New York Ranch Road intersection. These are all one-time monies of $2.5 million, and they were spent in about 10 minutes when we made these decisions. There were some minor improvements, but $500,000 is going into our road construction project for our Public Works Department. The board approved by a vote of 3-2 the MOKWISE program. Myself, Supervisor Ornetto, dissented because we did not feel that a couple of these programs merited to be in the program. We understand the process, but it does give tacit support for these items when they're included in an overall plan like MOKWISE. So I felt better to not vote in favor of those, and 3-2, it did pass. The board looked at a number of state bills that are going to the desk of the governor. Probably no chance this will be vetoed by the governor, but Senate Bill 350, the Clean Energy and Pollution Reduction Act of 2015. You know, this is not just making a statement that we don't like the environmental laws that are being passed. This was actually sent to myself and our CAO, Chuck Eiley, and Supervisor Morgan to draft a letter in opposition here. And it's more questioning the timelines, arbitrary timelines that they're setting down for meeting the requirements as far as air pollution reduction, as far as energy efficiency. You know, they're very arbitrary guidelines that are put down by our state legislators who really don't have a lot of background in this area. Also, the board took action on support of the governor's transportation funding bill and opposition to AB 57. And you can catch that on the web or get on our county website and take a look at it, 223-6470 if you have any questions about any of this. And this is Supervisor Richard Forster. We're going to a break.